ahead and do it. But in the meantime, so I still have my checkerboard that's still able to be pulled apart. So I can kind of go back to where I was yesterday and take apart my checkerboard. Maybe not. Maybe I need to cut it. Let's see. I cut it back apart. I'm just trying to pull these pieces apart that I didn't use. So I have this kind of stripe pattern from my last video. And here's my jelly roll. So now I can cover this. What I'm doing is essentially the same thing where instead of just a plain Tootsie Roll as a bullseye, I have the spiral as a bullseye. And instead of just a plain green, I'm wrapping it with some of my checkerboard layers. And if you don't have scrap, then follow my video that I just showed you, the other one. But what I'm trying to do is create another pattern design. And I'm just kind of doing this very not so great. But now if I kind of pinch this, now you can see I have my wrapped piece. Now, one thing I haven't shown you guys is if I roll this, ideally I want this to extend down here, but I'm not so worried about it because I'm just using my scrap. I'm going to roll this a little bit more now. It's getting a little smushed, so I want to roll it gently. I'm going to keep pushing that. What I'm going to do today is show you how I can get this to be a lot smaller. So maybe I don't want my spiral design to be so big because maybe I want smaller beads and I want to see how this is starting to stretch, because the more I'm rolling this, my Tootsie Roll is going to start to turn into more of a snake, or a coil is what we would call it in pottery. So I'm rolling and I'm pinching because I don't want this to get too distorted. So notice this is getting longer and skinnier and smaller. And I'll show you, I'm going to kind of exaggerate it. You don't have to go this far, but look how much longer it is and how much smaller. So this was my spiral before. Well, that's not really a good example. Here we go. See how this one's smaller? I'm going to go even more just to exaggerate. So the more I roll it and the skinnier that this gets, the smaller this gets. So I'm just going to do a little cut here. So now you can see the more I roll it, the smaller my spiral is going to get. So now I've got this cool, like, repeating pattern design here. I'm going to cut it in half just so we can see. There we go. So now you can see how small my spiral is. If this will autofocus, would be awesome. Let's zoom in a little bit, maybe out, trying to find the right spot. So here's my original spiral and here's my wrap spiral. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to slice a couple of these. And because I have this thin cutter, I don't need to roll it. You guys are going to want to slice it with your butter knife. But look how nice and small. And now my pattern is going to repeat a lot smaller. So I'm going to take this as my scrap. This is the end piece. Roll that into like a little tiny bead that I'm going to wrap now. And notice how thin these are sliced. So now I want my bead to be smaller. Check out how cool. How cool is that? Now, again, the more pieces I put on here, the bigger my bead's going to get because I'm adding more and more clay. But now I've got this cool repeating pattern effect that's got the spiral with this kind of, now it almost looks dotted because it's so small, this kind of dotted repeating pattern that I grabbed from the checkerboard. So before I roll it now, I'm just going to kind of pinch it gently just to kind of make sure those pieces are attached, and then roll it very gently. Notice in the palm of my hand. And then I've got my teeny tiny bead. So that is one way to kind of combine Monday and Tuesday's techniques. And that's all I got. Let me just stop that.